Very good afternoon to you again. All right, we take you now straight to the second day of Parliament questioning into the Thabo berste escape. Let's take you live there now where Justice Minister is expected to appear.
For smoke, for fire. Surely that is a great deficiency. Is there any explanation as to how an accelerant arrived in that cell? 35?
Unfortunately, that could not have been determined. Currently, one can say in hindsight, without the information of berste, where this came from, the person that was that night on duty, Senoi, is already been dismissed. In that investigation, it could not be obtained specifically how that accelerant came into the center.
And then just lastly, I know, Chair, I'm running out of time, but that issue about the desk.
All right, apologies for this. This is, of course, the hearings that we heard yesterday. Let's take you now to today's proceedings.
To do that, how did you do it? Thank you. National Commissioner.
Thanks, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. We do DNA continuously every day, all the time, Honourable Chair, where we compare people's DNA. The CODIS is a software that just makes the job much more easier in the search. Currently, you are aware that we've been doing DNA all along, and we've been successful. So here it was about taking the DNA of that chartered body, compared with the mother of berste. That capability, we have been having it all along. But the software you talk about, as soon as we finalize it and put it on the system, it's going to make the work much more easier. So I won't say we're doing it manually now, we do it automatically. But that software is going to make the work of our officials much more easier in searching the whole system. Thank you very much.
So,
Yes, 3 minutes.
It's fine. I'll make it against all odds. Can you, in your presentation, you say that this is not the first body that this dishonorable doctor, Dr. Mandisa, has claimed. When he claimed the first body, what happened to the first body? Because our understanding is that the body was handed over to her. What happened to that body? What investigations have the police done to the first body before she came back to claim the second body that was blocked?
Thanks, Honourable Chair. Maybe I'll allow the Provincial Commissioner to answer that. But before that, let me just a little bit dwell on a question that might have come earlier, but not really now. One of the reasons why, after having had the DNA of the chartered body not been the same with the mother of berste, and of course also on the other side the preliminary post-mortem indicating that this person did not die out of fire, but he died out of other causes. One of the reasons why we had to not conclusively say yes, it is berste's mother and this body does not match, so it means it's not berste. But there was also a question whether, is this really berste's mother? There was that question. And it took long to investigate because you have to get to relatives and so on to really come to a conclusion that it is indeed a berste's mother, because we had to go as far as getting to hospital, find your records. So that also had to play a role. We could not conclusively just say this is berste's mother based on the DNA. We had to go on relatives and get collaborative evidence that will confirm that. Thanks. You can proceed.
To answer the question that was asked, what happened to the body?
Thanks, Chairperson. What I can say is that the body is still in the government mortuary. Because if I can just explain what happened, the body was found floating on the 29th of April 2022 in Kopanonokeng, Bloemfontein. It was taken to the government mortuary. In the government mortuary, then they identified the body as the one they already worked on, of which it was claimed by the doctor on the 23rd of April. And it was taken to a certain undertaker in Bloemfontein. And according to the undertaker, that body was buried on the 28th of April. Also on the 8th of April, but it was found floating on the 29th of April. Thanks, Chairperson.
Chair, please indulge me. A body is found, is claimed by a doctor. It is taken away.
Babushes,
Yes.
I hope this is your last.
This my no, it's a follow-up question, Chair. I've never been answered. A body is claimed by Dr. Mandisa, Nandipa. It is found floating in a river. You go, you retrieve it, take it to some mortuary, and there is no case that is being followed. My question is, the body was handed to her, the first body. Then it is found floating in the river. It was retrieved, and then what happened to a police case? A case should have been opened, a follow-up investigation. There must be an investigating officer and all those so that the law is followed. You only block her when she claims the second body, but you can't tell us what you have done as the police in terms of the very first body. I want an answer. The committee is entitled to an answer to say, what did you do as the police with the first body?
Yes,
Chairperson, the inquiry was opened and investigated.
the answer?
I was saying that the inquiry was opened and investigated. That's why you even added an extra charge of violation of the dead body. Thanks, Chairperson.
So this one is the violation of the first body, not the second body. The charge you are adding. you are talking about. Thank you, Chair. My 10 minutes is done, I think.
Yeah. Next one.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mam Jele, ulido wa hii mgoku. Tuzawushiyela minutes for wena. Chair, I did not get, let me welcome the report from SAPS. The report that was flagged there or given to us is not the same as the one that were given, Chair. I think we must note that, because I tried to follow some segments of the reports were not here. Possibly would have been edited and reworked, bearing in mind that it must also include the arrest in Tanzania. Let's welcome that as well, and let's also congratulate all the teams that have been working in this operation to make sure that indeed Thabo Berste is arrested or traced and found in Tanzania. And we hope he would be taken to our maximum C correctional centers. No more triple PPEs on this matter, Commissioner, including the Minister of SAPS. Chair, and also let's take note of the person responsible in making sure that Dr. Nandipa gets to be investigated when she tried to claim whether it's a second body or a third body, so that an inquest gets to be put on this matter. Possibly wouldn't find herself here. But Chair, I want to understand from what Honorable Koza would have raised, how many bodies did Dr. Nandipa try to claim? Is it 2, including the one that got burned, or is it 1 plus the one that got burned? I'm just confused there.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Dr. Nandipa claimed the first body, which she said that it's her father. Then she went and claimed the second body, which she alleged it was the brother of a friend. Then the third body is the one when she claimed it's her husband, a customary law husband, she wants to go and cremate the body.
The one of the incident in the MCC.
That's correct, Chairperson.
Okay. Yeah,
Maybe
no.
just a follow-up, Honorable Chair, with regard to, I understand the Honorable Member is asking as to where is Berste. I handed him over, Honorable Chair, to the Department of Correctional Services. Where he is, I don't know, but I gave them. Thank
No,
you.
no, I was not asking where he is. I was just congratulating the efforts, the team that has been tracing, working together. That joint operation, I was congratulating. I'm well aware where he's currently at right now, or who takes over that process, and we can't put it on SAPS. It would be unfair on that. Chair, I just want to get clarity as well. Your document makes an indication that on the 1st of July, you would have conducted the DNA. And I don't want to get to the complicities that Honorable Koza speaks to. After realizing that the body, after DNA, they did not match. In actual fact, let me start with this one. When did you open a case of escape?
Chairperson, case of escape was opened by Correctional Services on the 16th of January 2023.
It gets to be opened by DCS. It's
DCS,
not.
Chairperson.
It's not a prerogative of SAPS.
No, it's DCS, Chairperson.
It's DCS.
Yes, thanks, Chairperson.
When realizing that on the 1st of July, the bodies that have taken through a DNA are not speaking to each other, and you realize that we must zoom into this matter, what is it that has been done since then up until, not necessarily up until the tracing was done of Berste? I'm trying to link this in terms of the work that would have taken place between DCS, G4S and SAPS. I understand those process of G4S not cooperating to an extent that information was withheld and so forth. But what was actually the role of SAPS entirely in this process to make sure that whatever that was not done correctly gets to be brought to book?
You're left with 5 minutes.
Hayi bo, kanjalo nje. Okay, Chair. Dr. Nandipa, when she came to claim the body, there was an affidavit that she had. And in that affidavit, there's a stamp that it's from Polokwane. Can we confirm that?
Brigadier Ramran, thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Yes, when she submitted the affidavit to court, there was a stamp that was made at Polokwane. We did investigate also, it's part of the investigation.
No, I just want you to confirm.
Yes.
The stamp was in Polokwane.
Correct.
And then coming to Bloemfontein to use that affidavit. Yes. And the officer that would have signed that affidavit is Officer Moremi.
Correct.
And it is found that Officer Moremi was dismissed in January when an affidavit was written in February or March.
Correct.
Or April.
Yes.
Was dismissed in January. What steps did we take after realizing that the person would have authorized an affidavit was dismissed from service?
I think as the provincial commissioner has indicated, because this investigation, the more we dig in, the more we found more evidence that needed to be collaborated. The issue of Moremi, who is dismissed with the stamp that was attached on the affidavit, is also part of the investigation. Like we indicated, the investigation is broader than just the escape. Because it also involves issues of the documents that were also received from court that need also to be verified, that we feel that there was some fraudulent document that we received in court. So like we indicated, it's a very broad investigation that is involving a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people. So hence, we still continue the investigation so that when we start effecting arrest, everything comes to full force, so that we don't have a case whereby it's been withdrawn or null prosecute based on the gaps or loopholes. So that is basically what is happening with regard to that investigation of the affidavit that was signed in Polokwane. Thank you, Chair.
The controller in TCS that is assigned or stationed at the MCC would have opened a letter to open a case of an escape on the 14th of January, which then a case number would have been issued on the 16th. Is this correct?
The A1 statement, Chairperson, I'm having a copy of it, was signed on the 16th of January when the colonel from, who's the lead in this investigation, was called to correctional services and opened the case and made sure that the same day it was registered on our systems.
Can we get verification of that a letter from TCS controller did not do that on the 14th and an actual case was done on the 16th? Why did we take so long to bring those who would have been listed or fired by G4X, especially pending your investigation, when you realize that here something does not add up to questioning? Might not be opening a case against them, but just to bring them for questioning.
Chair, as indicated earlier, there has been a struggle in terms of cooperation from DCS. Even employees were not willing to talk with regard to this case. Hence, we needed to engage also GICS to say we are struggling. We are also struggling with regard to the data of the IT equipment. So we needed also their intervention so that we can be able to access those. The other thing, Chair, is that because members, employees were not willing to come to the party and talk, because we already from the first day, I think there were red flags to indicate that this was not a suicide. So based on that, because of the time delay, if you look at the whole thing, it was, they alleged that the fire started at 3, but they called the police at 6 o'clock. There was also a lot of issues regarding the extent of the damage.
Can I cut you because I'm only left with a few seconds?
Okay.
Upon arriving at the scene, cell 35,
Sorry, Honorable Jele has instructed me to give you 5 minutes of her time.
Thank you, Chair.
Then after Honorable Jele, it will be Honorable Yako.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to be groomed in this house. You get such privileges without expropriating anyone's time. Upon realizing, upon the call time, a fire broke at 2:30 a.m. It would have been registered to say it's 3 a.m. It's another matter, but you get to be called at 6:10 in the morning. You get to the scene, which is the cell 35 in Broadway. Upon arriving, based on inmates and with the confirmation of GICS when investigating the inmates or an inmate that was assigned to clean, was the cell tampered with in terms of evidence, or evidence the scene was tampered with when subs arrived at the scene, or whoever was dealing with the investigation or authorized to go to the scene?
Chairperson, according to the members who went to the crime scene, they said that there was no tampering of the crime scene. Thank you.
There is no tampering of the crime scene. We have an inmate that alludes that he was told to come and clean the scene of an incident using hot water to an extent that he seeks refuge for his life. And then there's no tampering. Who was the officer authorized to go to the scene on the actual incident day?
Chairperson, it was Colonel Storm, who was the officer of the station of Bloomsbury.
Is he still part of the investigation?
A retired chairperson.
When did he retire?
I think last year, November, December, around there, but it's not long time ago, Chairperson.
He retired whilst the investigation was still ongoing.
Correct, Chairperson, he is 60, if I can remember.
What is the age? I know DCS officials retire at 60 years. What is the age of retirement in SAPS? Is it the same thing?
60 years, Chairperson.
Is this the same thing? Did we, whilst we are continuing with investigation, do we have an idea of bringing him on board to further these investigations? As he was an officer that who first was on the scene. Bearing in mind what an inmate would have said. And this is an inmate that says, I'm willing to provide evidence of this matter. I did it. Not I assumed or I seen. I did the cleaning up.
Thanks, Chair. To answer that question, Chair, the crime scene, we do have crime scene photos which was conducted by our local criminal records.
You're not
center.
answering me. I don't want photos and crime scene. Do we have any chance of bringing the retired
Yes, Chairperson.
official that
Yes.
went to the scene to further assist us in these investigations?
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, just one correction on
Minister.
on the retiring age of the South African police. It's 60, but the decision was taken that they can retire at 55, trying to save some money, and indeed quite a big chunk of them, they're retiring between 55 and 60. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable Jale, you have 5 minutes. You decided to donate.
No problem, Chair. In
your
fact,
other-
I still wanted to give her more because I wanted her to get that information.
You still want to do
Unless
that?
she's done. As long as she's
No, I'm done, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair, my first question is that there is a what is it? Time, I don't want to say it that it's a discrepancy, but I wanted to say time that the fire happens or broke up, it was 3 a.m. And then the police came 10 past 6. Is it normal?
Chairperson, is not normal, but the call was received at the police station at 10 past 6. The members then attended
Thank
to the...
you. Thank you. My time is just limited. Thank you. So it means the official was, the inmate was still cleaning by then. And then the second question, Chair, is that are we sure that we have berste now?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Let me assure the committee, firstly, that all inmates from Mangaung Correction Service who are involved, we have got their affidavits as part of the investigation. Coming to, are we sure we have berste? Yes, indeed. We do have berste. While he was in Tanzania, we ran his fingerprints. His fingerprints taken by Tanzanian police there was sent here. We ran it, and it came out positive with his criminal record, the previous criminal record. As I explained a little bit earlier about the issue of DNA's mother and himself, we have to take note that it has been discovered that this person do not have an identity document. So the criminal record was the only one that were able to assist us that it is indeed berste. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. My other question, Chair, would be, how easy, in your investigation, did you maybe find out how easy it is for a civilian to be able to claim the body from the mortuary when he's not an insurance company or anything?
Thanks, Special, because initially after we picked up of the doctor claiming bodies, we first started checking whether was she not claiming for the sake of insurance. That one was not, it was not confirmed. Then we thought that maybe because she was a doctor, body parts, it was not. Then that's where we went to this other route, which now started to link us more to G4S. Thanks, Chairperson.
In your investigation, have you maybe find out who is ditching bodies in this government mortuary?
Chairperson is part of the investigation because the first body she claimed at the government mortuary, the second body was from National Hospital because the first body died as a result of culpable homicide, the second body they said it was a natural cause. Thanks, Chairperson.
In your investigation, did you find out why this body and not this body? I mean,
That not be part of the ongoing investigation?
yes, that's what I wanted to find out, that have they noted that they still has to go and find out why this body and why not the other one? Because where I'm getting to is that we, in these government mortuary, we might be having bodies that are not claimed, that has been there for a long time, that maybe this business of selling bodies has been going on, maybe for muti or anything. Thank you, Chair.
It has been noted, Chairperson, and we'll follow that route also. Thanks.
5 minutes, Chair. Thank you.
Just one issue, National Commissioner. You said Mr. Berste does not have an ID.
Correct, Honorable Chair.
So we don't know if he is a South African or a foreigner.
No, he is a South African by criminal record. The person who served at Mangaung Correctional Service Center is the same person that was arrested by Tanzanians. As I said, the Tanzanians took fingerprints, they sent it to us, and we ran it through the system, and it was confirmed it is him. And as he arrived here again, we took Bakal Swabulu going to do the second DNA, but he is South African. He is Thabo Berste, Honorable Chair, even though, as I said, on the ID part, there is a problem, because there is other two Thabo Bersters with IDs that are out there. And this one, of course, he doesn't have ID, so you won't find him there. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
So the person who was at Mangaung Correctional Center, who has been arrested in Tanzania, what did you do to verify that he is a South African if he does not have an ID?
Honorable Chair, we verified him through his criminal record of the previous crime that he committed, that he was serving at various correctional service centers in South Africa. You would recall that the Criminal Records Center of the South African Police Service, we have databases of people that have previously committed crime, not those that haven't committed crime. So, because he served, he have committed crime, we took his fingerprints then, we took his DNA. Now, we were able to identify it is him, Honorable Chair.
Ngosi Chair, for indulgence. I think SAPS has been a passive partner in this whole investigation. And I think we're missing the key role you should have played as the main investigating space. Firstly, you have someone who's claimed 2 bodies. Those bodies are claimed 3 times. One of those bodies is found floating. One of those bodies is confirmed to not be the person claimed to be that person. two bodies claimed 3 times, and yet the SAPS did not bring the person into custody, and yet there's no record of the SAPS arresting that person, there's no record of the SAPS charging that person, and you even have the nerve to tell us that you suspected of a body parts syndicate, but yet you did not bring that person to SAPS to say, we are suspecting that you are involved at a high level of moving human parts. Can you explain to us how it is that Dr. Nandipa, who has claimed 2 bodies, was not brought and charged and arrested based on you finding those 2 bodies under her name?
If, as I've indicated, that there was an inquiry registered and that this was a prosecutorial guided investigation, there's a prosecutor dedicated to this team dealing with these cases of what happened in G4S. She's been guiding the police throughout, and that's why Dr. Nandipa, that's why the investigation where we are now is at an advanced stage and anything will happen at any time. Thanks.
One more question.
No, I don't have a question, I have a comment, Chair. There seems to be no will from the police. It seems as if you gave this away to someone else. Your role was to investigate, make recommendations, arrest. You had information, you had forensic reports, you had answers, you had a body, you had another body, and yet you did nothing, and you're telling us about an inquiry? I don't think we can accept that, and we've not been looking at you because we're busy with G4S who's taking us for a ride, whereas we've got a state entity which is supposed to protect us, not doing what it's supposed to do. So what did you expect us to do?
Seems to be a question. Okay.
Honorable Chair, thanks. Honorable Chair members, the brief I got is that this was discovered on the body that is claimed to be Thabo Berste. That was the last body. And thereafter, they went court fighting for funeral and subs fighting to keep the body not to be cremated. And in that process, they were still there, and that's when they were still investigating whether the previous bodies, is it the same person? And after that, the alleged doctor vanished, and that's when he was wanted. The PC can add on that. Thanks.
I venture to say that the SAPS came here unprepared. The SAPS came here to this committee. Firstly, they were oscillating around who's going to present to us with themselves, and they came here unprepared, and I don't think we can take that, because G4S is got a partnership with DCS, so they're on the side. However, you, as our protector and security in this country, you are supposed to come to us and say, we did our best to apprehend these criminals. We did our best to make sure we don't waste state resources. We've got a flight from Tanzania bringing these 2 people down here right now. On whose paycheck is that coming from? Because you failed to apprehend her when she was here, when you had evidence from last year. You did not do that. And I don't think we can accept it, Chair. As a committee, we can't.
I allowed you to proceed because you were still within your 5 minutes. But if you were not within your 5 minutes, I wouldn't have allowed you to proceed. So are you expecting an answer on the paycheck? Over to you, Commissioner.
Chairperson, can the question be repeated?
I'll do so very slowly, Chair. We have 2 bodies that were found to not be the people. There's an investigation by the SAPS finding that those people are not the people that were claimed to be by one person. They're claimed 3 times. Your timeline tells us that. Yet you did not bring that person into your space to say, we have suspicion that you have done this, we have proof. You did not say that. You did not apprehend, you did not charge, you did nothing. Wasted all this time. A year later, even with DCS's incompetence and G4S's lack of cooperation, you did not do your part as SAPS. And now we have criminals that are outside of the borders of South Africa, who we must then fly into the country for us to then charge again. Go through all that process on whose monies? On South Africa's paycheck, who's going to take that person and bring them here? So I'm asking, how did you allow that to get to a stage where it did not happen in the timelines that it was supposed to happen in?
Chairperson, it was not an easy investigation. Each and every time we investigate, then something out comes more. As I said, that there was a prosecutor who was guiding us. We were presenting the cases before her, and then she will give us advice, she will ask questions, we'll go back. And as I'm stating now, the charges now have been added, and the relevant people will be charged. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. I think this side, I forgot the sequence. Can you raise your hands? Honorable Niveau Drogen, Honorable Swart, Honorable Engelbrecht. Okay, 1, 2, 3, okay. And then Honorable Janji will be the last.
Thank you, Chair. On slide 6, the charges are listed there, fraud, perjury, violation of a dead body, aiding and abetting an escape, and defeating the ends of justice. I just wanted to know, these charges are to who? Is it Dr. Nadipa or Bester? Just clarity.
Thank you, Chair. As indicated, because the investigation has been done with the prosecutor, those charges are against the current suspect that have been arrested, that appeared in court, I think it was yesterday, as well as the one that, which is the employee of G4S, the father. Also, the charges here include the doctor, as well as for escape. It will include also the main suspect, which is thabo Berste. Then some of the charges, Chair, we are still going to add more people because of their contribution. Like indicated earlier, we need to collaborate some of the information that we are having. It will be premature to go and effect arrest when we've not necessarily done our investigation properly, so that we don't end up having to have matters that are withdrawn in court. So it's important that we get information, like we already have some of the inmates that we requested through JICS that they be reallocated to other prisons so that we can get their statement, because they were not willing to cooperate with SAPS. So hence we need more information and we need to collaborate.
Thank you. Earlier you said that DCS made a submission for the charge of the escape, right? DCS. Okay, right. So that is that being investigated as well?
Correct, Chairperson.
Okay. So then, secondly, the cause of the fire, is SAPS investigating that as well?
Correct, Chairperson.
Okay, fine. Clear. So I'm hoping that we as the committee can get the final report of all the investigations once it is completed. And then secondly, I wanted to say I'm a little bit worried. From the time that you knew that this was not Bester, up until today, nothing that nothing came before any committee, I'm assuming both this committee and the police, that we have a major escape, so nothing came before us. So I just wanted to know why no information was forthcoming.
Thank you, Chair. Like I indicated, because of the fact that there was that preliminary or red flag that we've established, also there was that post-mortem report that shows that the cause of death might not have been through burn. Also, the fact that now there was this court application whereby our suspect is also claiming the body. We did not want to, because when we received the first DNA comparing the mother of Thabo Berste as well as the child body, we needed to do further investigation. So based on that, it was not possible for us to open an escape case because G4S was still adamant as the custodian that we don't have an escape. The dead body, the child body that is in the cell is that of
Sorry, Chair, I'm going to interrupt you there. I just wanted to say I don't know why you left it to G4S with their adamancy or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's up to you to investigate that there was an escape because you knew the DNA proved that the body was not Berste, but I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to comment or you are fine?
Yes, Chair. I wanted to indicate that despite the fact that G4S was not opening a case, SAPS was still continuing with its investigation. Hence, it managed to get the bodies that was found and trying to establish what is the relation of our doctor to these bodies that were found. And how is this body that were found related to the child body that was found in the cell? So that investigation, it still needs to be, because we still don't know who is the deceased child body in the cell. So it's important for us to have all that information. We can even link whoever that is able, because if she was not working alone, there are other people that are working with her that are necessary for us to get the statement and also to collaborate to put them to the scene so that we can know that they were part of the syndicate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very briefly, I think our concern and the public's concern is the lack of advising the public to the fact that a dangerous serial rapist and murderer was out and had escaped and was in the public domain. Now, I appreciate there's a process of investigation. I fully appreciate that, and there is a certain confidentiality required in that. But in the investigating officer, Captain Flyman, already on the 25th of May, that's the same month as this event took place, indicates, according to the timeline of JICS, suspicion about events at the cell. And then the investigation comes on. And then the Brigadier does incredibly good work with that High Court application in Gauteng, which is opposed and blocked. Now, at that stage already, there should have been an investigation for perjury against the doctor, following your successful opposition of that High Court action. Why was there no investigation then already against Dr. Nandipa for perjury that was very clear in that case? The Judge Cameron pointed out he said there were a number of inconsistencies with the affidavits that were filed. So yes, it's a double-edged sword. You did well with the application, but the question then is, at that stage already, in June of last year, there was information that firstly indicated that Thabo Berste was not the person that died, and yes, it's ongoing. But my concern is at what stage and what is the process of the police? Commissioner, maybe you can help us. At what stage do you warn the public that there's a dangerous person out there, that you're looking for him? I've seen those adverts. We're looking for this person. He's a person of interest. And at what stage do you warn the victims, the rape victims, that this person who is convicted is possibly out? Can you help us with this? Because that's a question that everyone is asking.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Yeah, I think we will take responsibility as subs to say maybe we did not warn the public in time. But Honorable Chairperson, what made a bit of a trick around whether is this thabo berste? Initially, the mother was uncooperative. She said she will talk us through a lawyer, which is a right. And we struggled to get those affidavits. And until some of the relatives, we were able to obtain their statements, and then to an extent that then we can, it was early this year, we can be able to come to a conclusion that it was indeed thabo berste. Because as I said, the fact that that DNA ruled out the mother and thabo berste, the question was, as the mother was quite uncooperative for some time, the question is it the real mother? And that brings further the question whether, is that thabo berste? So we had that problem. We had to get collaborative evidence from relatives around that confirm, yes, this is the son to this one, this is the son to this one. So that investigation did take a little bit of time, yes, but yes, maybe we acknowledge we might have not done it early enough to warn the public until my colleague, the commissioner, went out to the public. Thanks.
General, just generally, what is the policy in warning victims of crime, or is there a policy when a person has escaped and you know here was a person, a witness or someone that is at risk? Is there a policy in place?
There is a policy around identification parades, Honorable Chair, and in the process of investigation, we, yes, in some cases we do, but in some cases there is an intricacy that if you take out a photo of somebody, throw it out there as wanted, it will depend on analysis by the IO. It always, at some point, it have this problem that you can't go and do identification parade once you arrest the person, because when you go for ID parade, the defense would say, but this person was all over, so you can't say this one knows this one because he saw him everywhere. Yes. So in this case, yes, there are those intricacies.
But I'm speaking specifically about on your police dockets, you would have the victims, the sexual offences victims, the rape victims. Those are the ones that I'm asking about a policy. Here you've got a convicted criminal of rape, Facebook rapist. Now you know your dockets, there are rape victims here. What is your policy in advising those rape victims that this person might be out? Is there a policy to warn those people?
Yeah, we are not maybe one, but we have a policy around the victims of crime.
I'm aware of the victims of crime, but in a particular case where the people might be a danger, and maybe that's something we need to look into, because obviously here you had suspicions of a person had escaped, and you've got surviving victims of crime, and of course women in general would be concerned, but I'm talking about specifically, and that's something we can look at in future. Time's limited. Can I just ask you, on the 18th of October, the JICS reports that you met with SAPS and JICS, and you indicated SAPS have reason to believe that a dead person might have been smuggled into the cell, and the cell set on fire to fabricate a suicide. SAPS requests JICS assistance to bring in the hawks. Now, why would you do that? The directorate, did you want to escalate the level of the offence being investigated?
Honorable Chairperson, I'll ask the Provincial Commissioner to comment on that. The hawks are part of SAPS, and I don't have to ask anybody external to assist myself talking to the hawks or the Provincial Commissioner, but maybe she can comment better on that. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, before Minister.
Chairperson, on two things. The question of informing the community is correct, but there is a catch-22 situation here on berste per se. That you are investigating, you might be warning him and his accomplices when you begin to warn that he must run. So, as I'm saying, it's a catch-22 when you need to be sympathetic with the victims and all that, but at the same time, remember, for some time, there was this contradiction even within the agencies to say, Chief said, that person was in there when it has been established that is not him. So I will leave with the problem of when is it, but the policy to be developed, and there are two kinds of escapees. There are escapees that escape from the custody of the South African Police Service, and there are those that escape from the correctional service. And then they will move, correctional service will be responsible for hunting those supported by the South African police. But those that escape from the South African police will be by the South African police, which means they've got a broader leeway on them. But indeed, it would be good to find the police. When do you get the community to know without jeopardizing your own investigations to find that?
Thank you, Minister. Just my particular emphasis was on the victims of crime there, the surviving victims, but I appreciate your response. There's something to develop. Can I just quickly, I know my time is limited, the two issues I raised earlier with JIX, that is that the investigative journalists on their version emailed the brigadier asking if there was a police official to whom they could refer sources about Berste's whereabouts. This is in March this year, and the response was that Crime Stop could be contacted or it could be reported using My SAPS app. Now, surely that is unacceptable given the role that they had played as in giving information, that they'd been sharing information as they were uncovered it and getting leaks. And I understand there are a lot of fabricated issues as well, but this is a reputable organization that is giving a lot of attention. And then secondly, Generals, particularly here, your comment on the 26th of March about the leaking of sensitive and confidential information to media houses. And I appreciate it can prejudice. I'm a lawyer. I understand it can prejudice a criminal investigation from the police's side. But the fact is that it can also assist you greatly. And so by saying that, it's been looked into by authorities. Does it, unfortunately, what it creates is the impression is the whistleblowers and investigative journalists are being pursued as opposed to the actual criminals, the wardens, everyone involved in this. Would you comment on that? Thank you so much.
Before Chairperson, I was going to answer the first question of the Hawks. I don't know why Hawks will ask from the judge, or the investigating team in Free State will ask the judge to bring in the Hawks. Hawks have the mandate, got two mandates. They've got the mandate of being invited to the case or themselves taking over the case. They look at the weight of the case, how much it threatens the state. They deal with those cases that will threaten the state. So if they felt, the investigating team in Free State, that there was an issue, they themselves, through their leadership, through the provincial commission, national commission, they would have dropped in without really going through the judge. But Chair, may I raise the issue on the last one, the app and all the answer. I wish, while it's good to go to meet and all that, I wish the same information from JIX would have been raised with the police. So to us, that would really help. Maybe if they are seen not to be coming on board on the matter, then it goes nothing going to the media. But the difference, others are investigating, others are making news. So it will be good that by the time it goes there, but it also sheds so that they go on a thorough kind of investigation.
Minister, yes, and I agree with you, and the judge did make that concession as well, but maybe there was an incorrect reflection there of that note, because it does make sense to me. The SAP's asking jigs to go to Hawks. Clearly, you would, as the General, you would instruct the Hawks yourselves. But maybe, General, if you could just respond to that last issue, because it is a matter of concern to us, and I think to investigative journalists as well, that you are, what is purported here seems to indicate that it's a chilling effect on whistleblowers, on investigative journalists, when in fact maybe you should be spending your time investigating the case, which you are doing. Thank you, Chair.
And thanks, Honorable Chair and members. Yes, I think, well, the Brigadier, what he did wasn't correct. Actually, also early May, I did, firstly, early this year, we capacitated further the task team. The team in Gauteng consisted of two officers. We increased it to 18 in Gauteng, over 18, and we increased it also in the Free State. And during that meeting, I said there should be 2 investigators in both the provinces, and their numbers must be given out for evidence. And the numbers, their names were given out in the Free State, Brigadier Mkhawulezi and Flyman. In Gauteng, it was Shibiri, and I said the numbers, the spokesperson must give that to the public so that they can only talk to those 2 people. To refer them to 08600, well, it was wrong because I directed the spokesperson to give those details. And with regard to investigative journalism, well, that statement was issued on the basis that there were journalists that were assisting us in terms of giving information, but there were those, unfortunately, maybe we didn't clarify it, there were those that were trying to mislead us. So we don't know who were behind them, but we could see that they are really misleading us. So it was a warning to those. Maybe we're not clear in terms of distinguishing between the two. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Chair, just also to commend, after all the issues that we've had, the arrest that did take place eventually. So I think we do need a commendation in that regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Engelberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, most of my questions have already been posed, so I will be rather short, I think. Thabo Berste being rearrested is obviously a very important individual, because he would be able to shed light on all this bizarre things that led to his escape. However, it's very clear that there's a lot of interests and a lot of money involved here. So I am very concerned about whether Mr. Berste will be alive long enough to be questioned by the police. So I would want to know, when will the South African Police Service conduct an interview with Mr. Berste, where he is incarcerated at the present moment?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. The investigation have started. Yeah, what format, where, but the investigation have started with the investigating officers of both the provinces. Thank you very much.
You are done. Honorable Janja. Oh, I thought you said you don't want to ask questions. Okay, Honorable Breitenbach. Are you going to ask question after Honorable Hon? Okay. Honorable Horn. Please, Honorable Horn, just do us a favor. Expropriate all her time.
Now, I want to expropriate Jantjie's time. Thank you, Chair. The one thing that's not quite clear to me, and maybe given what Justice Cameron also said this morning about the lack of trust in all role players and stakeholders in the criminal justice value chain, we can slowly start building trust again if the answer is yes. Can we at least get a confirmation that Dr. Nandipa was questioned by SAPS before Ground Up ultimately middle of March published the report that brought all of the wheels of the justice system into action seemingly?
Oh, it's time to pick a straw again.
Chairperson, according to my information, she was not yet questioned.
Yeah, toch. Yeah, maybe I must just leave it there. So you now say your investigation isn't at advanced stage. When Ground Up published their expose on the 15th of March, followed, I believe, by what really convinced you to get into action, the photos on the 16th of March. Where were you with that investigation then? What did you believe happened? And who were your suspects?
Chairperson, she was still one of the suspects, but by then she was already on the run.
Yeah, so maybe at the risk of just repeating myself, I mean, the minister now gave us the assurance that the decision not to go public was really all informed by the risk of warning suspects. So if she was a suspect, even though you chose not to question her at any stage, and if you didn't want to take the public into confidence and warn the public, importantly, because you felt it's more important to keep everything under wraps, was her movements and her home watched? And if so, how was she able to flee? Did she maybe phone the Guptas in the United Arab Emirates and get their advice? Or was she watched? I mean, that's basically the question. Given the minister's assurance that this was all informed by the need to tread carefully and not alert the suspects.
Chairperson, before the answer, my statement is on Bester.
Oh.
Yes.
So does that mean that by then you've not linked Bester to the good doctor?
My issue of responding to the question by Honorable Swart, that is a catch-22 situation. Remember, we acknowledged that it would have been good that especially those individuals that were victims previously would have been warned. But at the same time, we would not have warned Bester that we know that you are out there. So this statement is based on Bester per se.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But Bester obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously. To my mind, logically speaking, would not go into hiding as an individual. So does your answer then mean, Minister, that up to that stage, despite the fact that there was these bizarre circumstances around claiming unclaimed bodies and finding familial relationships which SAPS, it rightly so, well, seemingly, raised alarm bells at SAPS, but not alarm bells which necessitated action. But despite those bizarre circumstances, does that then yet still mean that at that stage SAPS has not put one and one together and realized that the answer is 2? The likelihood that this doctor is involved is very high.
Maybe the answer is 3.
Well,
even 4.
I think that...
Chair, even 4, even 5, even 6.
Yeah.
Because what is very clear here, that this is not even a tango of 2. It's not for Berste and doctor.
Yeah.
It goes vertical and perpendicular. We just believe that maybe that's one point that has not been made, to say while we have to really respect this board and all this, but investigation is less than making news, or is more than making news. There are quite cases that they'll take you a year, 2, 3, 4. For instance, I think the Honorable Judge and Mr. Swart, they raised the issue of perjury for Dr. Nandipa with the body. An investigator will realize that this is less. I need more here. And the investigator will be led by the investigation, as the judge, Honorable Judge, that he would have expected that there he will be arrested. You might go for the immediate one and you lose the bigger picture. And with Nandipa, it was very clear that there's a bigger picture. I heard Honorable PR2 raising the matter. I would say that there will be time where even at the ministry level you get impatient, very impatient, with this thing that seems to be obvious, and you'll be told that cool off. You are jeopardizing our case. We are going for this case at this level. We are dealing with sardines. We are going for sharks here. Give us that opportunity. And that's an area and the pressures that we face with the communities. Unfortunately, at the ministerial level is where you need to answer on this matter when they delay. But it's where you need to answer when they fall apart. For instance, I'm answering on the question of Honorable Kati's daughter, because the case seems to have been falling apart. But also you answer if you delay. So there is that situation, catch-22 situation that happens here. You'll be wondering that the questions you answer here are the questions that sometimes, and most of them, you answer when you are briefed by the team. And the team will remind you that you are not the investigator. The investigator is informed by the investigation, who to follow, when to act. So there is that situation. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll conclude by just saying that that's all well and fine to remind us that there's bigger picture, and sometimes there's a method to the madness, so to speak, and a broader strategy. But even if that is then the case in respect of the good doctor, the question then, which is written largely across this room, is why was the doctor's movements then not at least monitored, even if it is to be accepted that SAPS had a reasonable reason not to bring her in for questioning at any stage. So that doesn't explain that failure. It also doesn't explain, and the minister says sometimes in the police one-on-one is 3 or 4 or 5, and he talks about horizontal and vertical movements. I think that's what we as ordinary citizens would call joining the dots. And it would seem SAPS either didn't want to join the dots or didn't have the ability to do so. Thanks, Chair.
guess the minister would say he has already answered Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make it clear at the outset that my comments that may follow do not include the Brigadier sitting over there. She's expressly excluded, as is the young man who assisted her in doing his job. So, two of them, this doesn't apply to you. You say that you were struggling. I'm sorry, I can't see your rank from here. No.
Provincial Commission.
You, yes. I don't know your name and I can't see your rank.
Lieutenant General Mutsunyani, Chairperson.
Thank you. You say that you struggled to get cooperation from DCS. Is that correct?
I think G4S.
G4S, DCS, whomsoever. Who did you struggle with?
G4S, Chairperson.
You're a Lieutenant General, did you say?
Yes, Chairperson.
That's quite a rank. Tell me, how does a Lieutenant General in the South African Police Force struggle to get anything from anyone in this country? Please explain that.
Chairperson, with the challenges we have, that's why we did get Section 205, because there are processes to follow. We did get Section 205 against G4S on the documentation we want. And further on that, then we started communicating through GIGS and DCS itself. Thanks, Chairperson.
You needed to get a Section 205 subpoena in order to get information from G4S. Is that what you're telling us?
We needed those documents for investigation, Chairperson. Then we sectioned them so that we can get those documentation.
Yo, I wish you told me that yesterday. Who is the prosecutor who's leading this prosecutor-led investigation?
Advocate Amanda Berste, Chairperson.
From where?
From Bloemfontein Court.
Good. Can somebody tell me, perhaps it's an answer that DCS will give, so I won't ask you. Can somebody tell me why it was necessary to charter a private jet in order to bring Berste and this woman back to South Africa? The police have a jet. The state has another jet. Why was it necessary to charter a private jet?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. If the police had to transport all the people from that side to here, after the team met the Tanzanian team, they established that for any deportation does not involve the police. When you deport anybody from a country, you deport the person, probably people that are responsible for immigration are the ones that come on board, but you don't deport through police. Police can assist in the process.
I'm sorry, that doesn't answer my question. Why do you need to charter a private jet?
Chairperson, simply put, it was part of negotiations with the officials on the other side that it would be their pleasure if it's done the way that it was done. So we had to respect those negotiations with
So the Tanzanians wanted to fly to South Africa in a private jet. Is that what you're saying? It's a yes or no answer.
No, I'm not going to answer that way. No, not at all.
Then don't answer.
You can tell others to answer yes or no.
No, don't answer.
Absolutely not in court here.
It's fine.
We sent a team to negotiate. The team left on the 9th. So it would be initially the extradition or if not extradition, is a deportation. So we were advised which is a better one, which is an easier one. So we had to negotiate with that. So that was raised by the team as we were in contact with the team to say they would be more comfortable if something private rather than the police comes. So we had to respect that.